There we go.
Hello.
I thought I was the only one for a second.
No, we're all trickling in.
Hey, Leash.
Hang on, I'm
You
in
guys
like a
hear me?
funky reception spot. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm
Okay, good.
kind of like getting out of my driveway, so I'm like half hooked up to my internet and half on my data. Hey, Mike, what's up?
We're still waiting for a couple.
Yep.
Oh, it's Marcia and Corey, right?
Yes.
They both said they can come.
Yeah, they let me check. Corey said she had to leave at 12:45. Oh, here she is.
Here's Corey.
But Marcia, I'm pretty sure she was on the poll. She was available today. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Let's see. Yep. Yeah, Marcia had indicated that she was available at noon on Friday, so hopefully she'll be here. We'll give her another minute. I know that we do have, we probably have limited time, and I don't know if we'll get through everything we need to get through. So maybe we can try. We'll hopefully Marcia will be on soon. Maybe we can try and schedule a next meeting right away before we get going, just so we already have that in the books, and we're, assuming we don't finish everything today.
Yep, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
I'm always
yes.
good around
Hi,
that time.
It's Marcia.
Aha.
I can't get in. I'm doing it by phone. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, everybody's here now then. So Marcia, I was just saying, I don't know if we're going to be able to get everything, we have limited time. I don't know if we'll get through everything today. So I think before we start, maybe we can try and just get a next meeting on the calendar, maybe for next week sometime.
Sure.
Just so that we're already ready, and can just keep moving on getting everything done.
Sure. I apologize. I have a hard stop at 12:45. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I know, so Nate, you're not in on Tuesdays, is that correct?
I am, and my schedule is a lot more open starting next week.
Oh, it is. Okay. Are people, does this noon time, does that work for people generally most days, or?
It often
Yeah.
works for me.
Yep.
Just depends on the day.
For me, it depends for me, but let's try to do that.
Okay. What about either Tuesday or Wednesday at noon next week?
I'm unavailable
would be-
on Wednesday.
Or
And
you
this
said
is the 7th.
yeah. So how about Tuesday the 7th?
Okay, noon. It's okay with me.
Anyone
Works
else?
for me.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine for me.
All right. So let's that sounds good then. Let's plan for our next meeting at noon on Tuesday, Tuesday the 7th. And then we'll get as much done as we can in the time we have today. And if we need another meeting, we already have it on the calendar. So great.
Sounds good.
So I guess just the first question is where, I'm looking back, where did we leave off on getting Pete's contract all kind of sorted out and wrapped up? Did we still had a couple open questions that we didn't get through?
We
Do we have
did.
questions?
Do I have permission to share my screen? I can pull up the draft for us to look at.
I don't
Let
know.
me see if I can assign that. If not,
I think, let me see. Hold on.
let's see.
Oh, I think I've got it. Here we go.
Good. Yay, it worked.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. So tell me, I can't see anything on the screen now. So besides this draft, I think that we had discussed sick leave and personal leave. Am I remembering that correctly? I think that's kind of where we left off. Does anyone remember?
Yeah, we were on the last page, I think. So we got to the first 2 pages. We're on the last, like, back and front. But I think sick days and all that stuff was squared away. And we were
Okay.
front loading the 3 PTO days.
You're right. And we talked professional development. So I guess we are apologize for the scrolling. Okay. And I did ask this question about retirement because there was this last bit in here that I didn't know if that was only applicable to Natalie. Had we discussed the evaluation yet?
I don't believe we did.
I don't think so either. So that must be where we left off.
I thought we touched on it a little bit, where it was just that it had to be done around like February or March in order to be done in time for the bonus like sign off, right? So I remember talking about that it needed to be done in February or March, and I think we were discussing who would own that. Like, would that come from the personnel committee? I think that's what we had talked about.
Yeah, and well, I went back to the bylaws, and this fits. The bylaws specifically say this is under the duties of the personnel committee. It says the personnel committee shall also present an annual performance report of the director to the board within the first quarter of each calendar year. So,
Okay. So we need to back these dates up then a little bit.
so if the personnel committee is going to present that report, so that would, presumably be by the March board meeting, right? So they'd want to have the meeting earlier. So
Yeah, so February makes sense then, right?
So what I just changed it to is that we will share, his evaluation will be shared with him by March 1st. So he has it in advance. And his self-evaluation needs to be shared by February 1st.
I think that makes sense. So
Then we would share it with the board at the March meeting.
right. So that means, does that give enough time? So basically, if we get a self-evaluation from him by February 1st, then the personnel committee would have to actually have sit down with him and have that performance review in February at some point, and then prepare the report for the board by March 1st.
I mean, we
So
can
that
push
means-
Go ahead, Marcia.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking ahead. That then it becomes May, June, right?
What's that?
It becomes,
I was just thinking ahead to the quarters.
if it's in the first
So
quarter,
that-
we need to have it done by the end of March.
Right, but but I thought you said it has to be done each quarter, right?
Oh, no. Just the bylaws just say the first quarter of the calendar year.
Oh, just first quarter. Okay,
Yeah.
I misread. I misheard you. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think we had discussed, because I think it was something that he had said, am I remembering this correctly?
He did.
Yeah, he wants a quarterly,
He did.
nothing like if it's formal. Yeah, he just wants
Right.
like a temperature check on what he's doing. I did talk to him though. I was like, is it fine if it's not necessarily like a reported thing and it's just like a casual like touch base and this is how you're doing? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. He didn't expect like a full evaluation every quarter. So we can decide what that looks
Okay.
like. And he said he might not even need it that frequently if like once he's starting to feel more comfortable. It's more like a first year thing.
Right.
And that would be
If you
like
want,
less.
we could add language. You know, if you want, we could add language, or as often as the board deems necessary. Just, I don't think it's necessary to do it. We could do it anyway, but you know,
I
The only-
hesitate
Up to you.
about putting it in the contract because that locks us into it when really our
That's fine.
only commitment, is to do it annually. We can informally do it all the other times that he requests, but
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
so
same.
I might
if we're-
suggest moving up the dates because typically the budget process is supposed to start in February. So you might consider trying to get this done a little earlier just to get a better sense of what the budget's going to be for his salary.
But we have his salary locked in for the next 3 years based on the contract cycle.
True enough. So if in the future you felt like you needed it, you could change it in future contracts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm open to it and I understand that rationale. We
Yeah.
can also either make these dates a little bit earlier so there is more time for the personnel committee to come up with the self-evaluation, or we could potentially push back the March date to like the 14th or 15th, because that would still be in advance of the board meeting. Thoughts? I can't see anyone's faces, so.
Yeah, like doing it earlier even than February. I just worry that it's like so far in advance. I don't know, but I think if the timeline is like he gets the evaluation some point in January and gives it to us by February 1st to give time to do a report and do things well in advance with the budget, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it does give us a full month, of the full month of February between when we get his self-evaluation. So it's a full month to just set up a meeting with him and then, write a report out to the board. So that seems like it should be.
Do you want to put the 15th of March in there just to give a little bit of leeway with the goal of completing it before that?
Can I ask why the evaluation is not on his anniversary date? That's what we typically do for the staff.
Well, it's in the bylaws. So,
Oh, okay.
so
First
the
quarter.
bylaws say that we have to do an evaluation by the end of the first quarter.
Got it.
It says within
And my
the
guess
first
is
quarter.
that just has to do with budgeting because, this determines whether he gets a raise or not. And then that has to be factored into the budget. So
Thank you.
It just says within the first quarter of each calendar year. Within. So
So if we're going to do an evaluation and not discounting this year because this is a first year and it's different, but if we're doing a year-long evaluation, I would change this to March 15th and put in, because that will still be in advance of the board meeting, leave this February 1st, and his evaluation will actually be a calendar year evaluation as opposed to a fiscal year evaluation, but that's normal. And then we will shoot for getting this done before March 15th, but just on the off chance that gives us an extra 2 weeks if things can't be arranged quickly. So that would be my suggestion.
I'm okay with that.
fine with me. I just a little concerned that if we miss the 15th, we're locked into that. but I have no problem with doing it that way.
Okay. I think the problem is that if we don't get it done by the 15th, that we're not in compliance with the first quarter because the
Yeah, I
full
have
board won't
no
meet
issue.
again until April. Okay.
No issues for me.
Okay. The termination language that's in here is pulled from others. This is just pretty basic. Unless you want this to be extended longer. We saw how short 60 days was when Tim resigned at 60 days out. So I don't know if you want that changed, but that's what came from before.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It says it's at least 60 days. I'd leave it.
Okay. Okay. We are at the end. I'm going to scroll back up quickly. Cover your eyes if you don't want to see that. I had this in here. I think this was just a language adjustment maybe that I was talking about, but I don't remember. Does anyone else remember why I might have highlighted that?
I think maybe it was just you were wanted to work on the language, like make it
Okay.
sounded right.
Okay. I will continue to work on that. I'm trying
Yeah, it
to
was
see if
just
there's
language that made it as like a, if this scenario occurs, like it
Gotcha.
could be fulfilled by one or the other because we don't know. It's not 100% approved yet, so we can't say it's an option.
Yeah,
yet.
I guess the only on this the New York helps language, like my only question would be, I guess I'm fine with the language as is, or we could just make it more general, I suppose, and just say, you know, we have the part where it says scoring in the top 3 of such examination, and then it could be something general, like unless it is determined that you know that examination or is unnecessary for under New York law for you know permanent status or something like that, and that it's not perfect, but
Yeah.
something just
Yeah,
general.
I had given you some language. You probably couldn't read it, Corey.
Marcia, you're right, you did.
I said something
Apologies.
like, or until, no, that's okay. I had to run out that day. So I had something like, until he has been permanently appointed under the relevant portions of the civil service law. Something like that.
Yeah, I think that would make sense because the scoring in the top 3, there's
Yeah.
a lot of scenarios with that language. You don't absolutely have to score in the top 3
Yeah.
to be
So
reachable.
I had
There
something,
could, I mean, if you get
Yeah.
enough people to say no, you just have to pass it.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think the broader the better. I think what Marcia suggested was great.
Yeah, if you can't read it, I can do it offline, but it was something like that. Or until he has been permanently appointed under the relevant portions of the civil service law.
What if we
in which
use the
case,
word passing here instead of take out this language?
Just passing
And
the civil
then
service examination. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know if passing. I'm just not sure if that's the right term. I might say contingent upon
Qualifies.
receiving a qualifying score
Mm-hmm.
on the civil service examination.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That works.
yeah, and then add unless it's permanently appointed, blah, blah, blah.
okay, so then this would be
Unless such examination is, well, let me think.
So I think it's until, I thought he didn't have to take the exam and then under the law, he can
You don't-
really appoint without the exam, right?
We don't know yet. We're
Ah.
in the process of figuring out if it the position qualifies under the HELPS program, but I
Ah.
don't think that's set in stone yet. So we're
Yeah, I
putting in
think
the
we're like 95% sure that it will, but yeah,
Yeah.
it hasn't been official yet.
Yep.
When will we know?
Soon. I think, well, I take that back. I know civil service is putting the titles up like mid-May, but whether or not they hear back on, like how soon it's going to be until we hear back, that I don't know.
Okay. Okay. In which case, he wouldn't have to take the exam, right? He'll get a permanent
Correct. He's
appointment.
just appointed. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't we just add that language? I mean, I'm open to as a suggestion. Up to you.
So, yeah, I mean, I just dropped in here as we were talking, but this can be changed. I put receiving a qualifying score on the next scheduled civil service examination for library director 3, unless such examination is waived for permanent employment under the New York Civil Service Law.
I'm not positive if it's a law or regulation, the
Yeah.
HELPS program. So I would just say, unless such examination is waived for permanent appointment via the New York HELPS program.
Is that the civil service law?
Natalie, do you
is it
know?
waived?
Do you know if it's a law
What's
or
it waived
regulation?
under?
Let me look through my emails, see if I can see what John said.
What if we just say, unless such examination is determined to be unnecessary for permanent appointment under the applicable New York laws?
Yeah, I said relevant civil service law or applicable New York laws, either one.
Yeah, that
Make
makes
it as
sense.
broad as possible.
Yeah.
Because I never heard the other one that you just mentioned that. So
Did you say laws or requirements?
I would just say laws.
Okay.
laws, yeah.
I might just say applicable New York laws.
Okay.
Just leave it as general as possible. Just if there's some law that applies that says he doesn't have to take the exam, then that's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that?
That's fine. Well, it could be a regulation, but I don't want to get picky here.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's general enough that it covers us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it seems fine.
I think the courts have ruled that regulations have the full force and effect of law. So I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Do we want laws or regulations?
I think it's fine as is. I'm happy with
It's
it.
fine. It's fine.
Okay. So everything else on this, I'm going to stop sharing so you don't have to watch me scroll. So everything else on that, it looks like we kind of, I'm going to send this revised draft over to everybody to take a look at and see what I miss. Does that work for you, Mike?
Yeah, that works.
Yep. And if you don't hear from us by a certain time, then that's fine.
Is our next step to send it to the board to review ahead of the meeting so they have a chance to I don't know, look at what we've come up with, or what do we?
I think you'd want the lawyer to review it and then for it to
Yeah.
go.
So Mike, are you going to share that with the attorney or is that something Nate does?
I could do that. Doesn't matter to me as long as it gets to them. If you want me to do it, if that works, I can do that. So you'll circulate around this.
I'm going to send it right now, in fact.
All right.
So
I'm fine with sending
Okay.
that to the lawyers and just saying, this is our proposed, agreement, draft agreement, and we want you to look it over and then in order, to present it to the full board. Well, we'll have to send it to Pete also. Once we get the sign off from the lawyer, right? Send it to him, send it to the board.
Yeah, Elise? What, Elise?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
when
here.
you send it, yeah, please put a by no later than Monday.
This next Monday.
Yeah. When
For
you send it
Pete,
to the
are
lawyer.
you talking about to the attorneys? I think Mike is sending
Yeah.
it, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Mike, okay, when you send it, put no later than close of business Monday.
That we need their sign off on it or any edits?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. But I mean, I
Yeah.
want to keep them on a short leash.
Yeah, and then I'm happy to, once we get feedback from them, send it off to Pete. Although I did call him after our last meeting just to catch him up and see if he had any concerns or anything. And I think we're on the same page, so I'm not expecting any like back and forth or trouble. He was good with what we had discussed and hammered out.
Good, but yeah, but we want to be sure the lawyers have signed off on it.
All right.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't show him anything. I just kind of talked
Yeah.
through what
okay.
we had
No, I didn't mean
discussed.
for him. I mean, I just want to get there okay.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
we don't have any last minute stuff. That's why I think we should tell them close the business Monday so that we could circulate it then.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. That works for me.
Yeah.
So I think with that, then I think we probably should move on to the management contract negotiations.
Mhm.
All right. So I guess where should we start? So Nate had sent around a kind of a summary write up of the proposals. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look at that yet.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know if anyone has thoughts on where we want to start with kind of discussing the requests that are on the table. Nate, if you want to kind of lead us off with that.
Sure. I mean, we could move through the document as it's written, or we could start with some priorities. I know for sure that the COLA raises are a priority for everybody in this group, so we could start there.
Sure.
So we are proposing 3% COLA raises for all the years of our contract. Looking at the department heads, Unit 2 contract, they had a slight, some weird jogs between different years. It's like 2.75 one year and 3.25 another year. So we're just but it's an average of 3%. So we're proposing the same 3% per year in our contracts. And there is, if folks have looked at it, there's a spreadsheet that shows what that would do to our salaries over the time period being discussed for these contracts.
Yeah.
If desired, I can share my screen too so that folks can see what some of those things look like. So let me share my screen. And I apologize, everybody. I am very sick today. So I'm operating on some of my cylinders instead of all of them.
No
Screen 2 here, share. All right. There we go. Let's go.
And
Can
I
everybody
have
see
to
my
head.
screen here?
Yeah, I have to head out in about 15 minutes. So it might be more
Okay.
helpful just for me to not even worry about the projections because that's the projection for something else and just to go through the asks. Is that
Sure.
possible?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
So I have the document
Um,
on the screen.
yeah.
And COLA is cost of living adjustment.
Correct.
To make sure I
Yes.
guessed that
Right.
right. Okay, just
You
checking.
did guess that. You guessed
All
that right.
right, fair
Okay.
enough.
Yep. Do we want to just review all of the asks and then kind of go point by point after that, or what are
Yeah,
you looking
that's
for, Corey?
what do people think would be most useful? I'm fine with doing that. We can just kind of run through what are all the requests and then to
Sure.
the extent we have any time left, we could drill down into some of them. I don't know if we will have much time left,
Sure.
That
but at
works.
least that would set us up for our next meeting. At least we kind of know what's on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just
And
didn't
Nate,
have any
what-
issues with the 3%. So that's why I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, my only question was, will this work within our budget? But I don't have a problem with matching Unit 2.
We
If we're
did-
going to go through this, Nate, why don't you tell us the priorities so that for the next meeting, we're set up?
Sure.
All right.
So yeah,
But I'm okay with COLA.
cost of living raises. There's been a request for a longevity pay change to how we do things, which would be starting with a $500 per year after your first year of service for the first few years, and then ramping up to payments that were in place before, but changing it to a higher rate of pay to help with keeping folks, retaining folks. And that's in the specific proposal for that is in the spreadsheet and shows the breakdown of costs and what increases that would cause to our cost per year. So that's another one. We had discussed at the last meeting about minimum hours, so we're proposing that we remain at a 35-hour work week in our contracts. Health benefits. So we don't have a practice of withholding insurance for 30 days, which is currently in our contracts. Our insurance providers and our benefits company are comfortable with us starting people pretty much right away. And that this is always a question that comes up when new workers come in. They go, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose insurance for a period of time. And so we just want to remove that 30-day waiting period from our coverage from the contracts. We also think that there should be some kind of parental leave explanation in the contract to say, here's what the expectations are. You'll either use FMLA leave and you have to use time, PTO during that, or we don't require you to use PTO. So we need to figure out how we want to do that. But I think having that in there would be helpful for folks, especially mid-career folks planning to have children. We also propose that the health insurance benefit for retirees just have some additional tiers added to it. So keep it mostly as written, but make it so that if somebody reaches 10 years of service, they get 50% of that benefit. If they reach 15 years of service, that they get 75% of that benefit, because there are folks who might be willing to come work for us who would have great experience and be huge assets to us, but they don't want to leave behind a benefit like the one that we have in our contract with another library or employer. So allowing mid-career people the option to still have some kind of access to a program like this would be great.
Is
While
quick
still
question
not,
on that. Is that
yes.
required? Is that requirement set by the New York State Insurance Program, or is that set by the library?
This is set by the library.
So, just on that point, real quickly. So what is the current? What's the current qualification for the health insurance retirement benefit?
Yeah, so the benefit is that if you hit 20 years of service with the library, we will then pay for a benefit of the what we're currently contributing to a single person base plan at that time. And that person, if they're under 65, can continue to stay on our insurance, and we will pay for 90% of it, and they have to pay us for the remaining 10%. Or they can elect to go get coverage elsewhere, and we just simply cut them a check for that 90% of the base plan that we cover. And then once people hit Medicare age, so 65, then they no longer are on our insurance or don't have that option to be on our insurance. Then they just get a check from us for the base, that 90% amount. And it starts as of the time that they left employment. So whatever that 90% was at that time, that's what they get for the rest of their life.
Okay. And just to clarify, this is only available to people who qualify for retirement?
They must retire, correct. They must retire directly from service with the library in the New York State Retirement Program.
Okay.
And have 20 years of service to the library.
Right. So the change here would be if someone had only been at the library for a little over 10 years, but they were old enough to qualify for retirement or had service at other New York employment or things like that, so they can retire. But they've only been here for 10, 11, 12 years, whatever, that they would get a partial payment of their
correct
benefits. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now we don't have a 10 and 15-year tier, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
So considering that a big priority of, sorry, Marcia, go ahead.
Okay. No, I'm sorry.
Given that this is all of our proposals here are designed to try to help us recruit really well qualified people, and then retain those people. So this is aimed at helping us get folks that might be very experienced, mid to late career, would give us plenty of service, 10 to 15 years or whatever, but might be in their 50s already, you know. Um, so yes, adding it would be adding those two tiers and making it a partial benefit as opposed to the full benefit that we currently have of 20 years of service.
And of course, this would be prospective.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Yes,
Well, you mean it wouldn't apply to someone who's already retired at this point?
correct.
But if there was an employee who, has already been here for, 10 years and then they retire now, they would qualify presumably under this change.
Yep.
Yeah, so whatever that date is, that if and when we make this change, it's prospective in nature.
Yep.
It does not apply to anyone who's currently retired,
Yeah, that makes
currently at that date.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right, so that's a request that we have. And then there is a sick leave donation program that is included in our Unit 1 and Unit 2 contracts. This allows for people who experience catastrophic illness or accidents who run through all their own time to appeal for help from their colleagues. And we have definitely had some examples of people who have made use of this program. So it's a compassionate program. And it doesn't cost the library anything to to do it other than a little time for us to administer it. But it's a really good, it's a good tool that we have in our other contracts. So I would love to see this added to our MC contracts as well. I would suggest a slight change to how it's written in the Unit 1 and 2 contracts, and eventually I would suggest that it be revised in the Unit 1 and 2 next time we negotiate, to allow folks to donate to a bank as opposed to just donating to one individual. Doing it that way encourages people to actually clear out some of their accruals instead of cashing them out. And it just makes it easier to administer the program and make sure we know that we have resources for people when they need it. So that is my suggestion for that.
So Unit 1 and 2 have the same language, Nate?
Yeah, Unit 1 and
Unit
2
1
currently have some
Same.
language in their contract about it. Yes.
The same?
Yeah, between those two contracts, it's the same. And so I'm just suggesting that we do something similar, but change the language to make it a better program that still, again, it wouldn't cost us anything more to do the program this way. And then next time we go to the negotiating table with Unit 1 and 2, we can just update their language to whatever we put in the MC contracts. But we can discuss that in detail. And then one of the big asks in here is about PTO. So vacation wise, our current PTO for MC workers is very, very low, especially at the outset compared to other public employers in this area. I've listed 5 comps so you guys can actually see that. And so we've had that be an issue when we're trying to recruit people. Our PTO is definitely a problem. So we are asking that the PTO be changed to one rate. We're looking at Albany Public Library as an example here. For all of our MC contracts, just make everybody have one rate. Get rid of the complicated rate chart. Say everybody earns 5.75 hours per pay period. That way we can recruit those mid-career people who are accustomed to that level of PTO. They won't have to make a major lifestyle change to come work for us. And it will help with our culture internally, which we're just all overstressed and overworked. So we want to encourage people to use time off.
You know what 1 and 2 have right now, Nate? I'm sorry, I haven't looked at the contracts. 1 and 2.
Sure. So yes, currently our Unit 2 contract earns more than management confidential workers do. Right from the get-go, they start at a rate of 3.75 hours per pay period for vacation, and we start at 2.75 hours per pay period. So that's right off the bat. They're earning more. However, they do work a slightly longer day than us, contractually anyway. So that balances out slightly, but it's still not quite the same in terms of days. There's two different rate charts also between Unit 1 and Unit 2, which I don't really love that that's the case, but that is the case. They both have tiered rate charts that run for, I think, 7 years. For some reason, our rate chart runs for 8 years before we cap out at the top. So we're asking that we go to just a one flat, everybody gets the same amount of vacation time for the MC units that we earn at the top rate in the chart, because that brings us into a number of days that is similar to other public employers for mid-career professionals. And then that just for new workers, we have a provision in the contract that says when you start with us, you are front-loaded 6 months worth of time. So that when somebody wants to move from one library where they have, a huge bank of time already banked up, they can come in here knowing, okay, I'm not going to have to worry about taking a vacation that I already scheduled. I'll have some time. I'm not going to worry about family obligations I have because I'll have some time. So we're suggesting a front loading of 6 months of PTO at the outset and eliminating the requirement that people not use any PTO during their first 6 months on the job, just to aid in recruitment. Otherwise, we think accruals are the way to go. We learned the hard way through trying the front loading process that it exposes the library to a great deal of liability. Because if somebody starts with us, uses a whole bunch of their front loaded time, and then decides to move on, trying to recoup the cost from them is very difficult to do. So we're suggesting staying with accruals. The other thing we're asking for, go ahead, Marcia.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
The other thing we're asking for in terms of PTO is for more personal time. So if you look at the comps that I've included, 5 days of personal time is pretty standard for most employers, public employers around here. And we only get 3. So again, this is tough for anybody who has a family or, is doing elder care, whatever. Personal time is just a helpful tool for work-life balance. So we're asking to be at parity with other public employers around here. And then finally, there's just some ways we can clean up these contracts to make them as clear and easy to implement as possible. So I just have some language suggestions for changing rate charts and stuff like that to make the language easier. And then finally, there's reference to calendar year, at least in one spot, I think still. That needs to be removed because we operate on a fiscal year and we want everybody to be on a fiscal year. So our other contracts are now entirely on a fiscal year, so that's what we want. Okay. So that is the quick run through of all the requests.
So I want to clarify something. Right now, Unit 2 is 3.75.
They're 3.75 to start, and I can pull out the rate chart and tell you how it goes up from there. Let's see. So they, for their first, second, and third year, earn 3.75. For their fourth and fifth year, they earn 4.5. For their sixth and seventh year, they earn 5.25. Oh, and I guess they do have an 8-year chart as well. So eighth and over is 6 hours. Maybe it was the other contract that was 7 years.
And you're asking 5.75?
Yep. So we're asking to just start at 5.75, given that most admin workers, most MC workers here are going to be individuals who have put in a lot of time working in other positions and stuff to be able to qualify to work for us. Mm-hmm. We want to provide people with mid-career appropriate benefits, basically.
Okay, so 5.75 at the get-go, right? At the beginning.
Yep. That is our proposal.
Okay. And one rate. So just to contrast, Unit 2 in the 6th year will have 5.2, starting with 3.75, and you want 5.75 across the board, one rate.
Yep, one rate.
Okay. And then for new workers, front load half of that.
Yeah, front load half 6 months worth of time, just so they start with something.
All right, I'm just trying to understand the problem. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So one real quick question, on the PTO, is it, oh, it's some, I know that we have Corey and Marcia have to leave real soon, so.
Yeah.
Uh, is it pretty standard around here for public employees have to separate vacation and personal leave rather than undifferentiated leave that kind of combines both of those for one? I was just curious if.
All of the comps that I have in here, there's only one that combines them. Colony combines them, and so you can see that it's a higher rate overall as a result. But all the other ones separate personal time and vacation time.
Okay.
So I have to go, but can I just make one quick comment before I
Mhm.
have to leave, which is under the longevity payments, and I just wanted to address this in this meeting. So next time we circle back, that's the area where I have the most concern. So New York State actually has a definition of longevity payments and how that applies, and those do not apply until 5 years. So an LLS payment, so these are not longevity payments. So what you're actually asking for in this contract would be that the administrative staff receive bonuses. They are not longevity payments. They can't be until 5 years.
Understood. Gotcha.
So,
Okay. All right.
um,
So I'll, you guys, I have to go next Tuesday at noon, right?
Yep.
All right. So
I'm sorry.
So,
I apologize. Bye.
oh, that's great. We'll
Have a
reconvene
good
on
week.
Tuesday, everyone.
Yep.
okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Um,
everybody.
Thank you.
For anybody who's still here, is there anything in particular that you would want in preparation for that meeting beyond what I've already given you?
I don't think so. I think I'm understanding the ask all right.
Okay. Good.
I have just for my own curiosity, I guess, just a question about the sick leave donation, and you had suggested moving to a bank model. And
Yes.
and this just might be my ignorance because I'm not familiar with how these work. I know that places have things like that, but if you have a bank kind of model where people can just donate to a general bank, who decides someone's eligibility to receive days from that bank? How is the
Yeah.
determination made that somebody is kind of, deserves or is eligible or qualifies or whatever?
So the contract language states that it is the director here who makes the determination, and there's eligibility criteria that's very specific that's spelled out in the language. In the case of Pete's contract, because I think you would want to add this to Pete's contract also, I would think the personnel committee or the board would need to be the determining. I don't know how we would want to do that. Maybe a panel or I don't know. But at least for us, we could just make it the director, which is the same in unit 1 and 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
would we set any kind of like limitations, or it's just like you said at the discretion? Like that'll just be an ad hoc decision.
Yeah, and the other thing to know about our current contracts, unit 1 and 2, is that there is a max cap for use of the sick leave donation program, which is 240 hours, which works out to about 6 weeks. It might be worth discussing whether that is a reasonable number of hours, given usually what people are asking for is for cancer or major car accidents and things like that.
And
So
Nate, correct me if I'm wrong. It's also like that's 2 asks.
you are only allowed to make 2 asks, and the maximum you can get total between the 2 asks in unit 1 and 2 is 240 hours.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean,
So-
if it's at the director's discretion, I don't understand putting like additional stipulations. Obviously, y'all would know the situation, and without like violating HIPAA and having a bunch of people know what the health concern is, I would be
Yeah.
nervous about a panel, because I ran into this when I was on the school board for like qualifying people for like a financial help, was like limiting the visibility of people's like personal health issues and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with putting it just on the director's plate, or the director and HR. I don't know if we
Right.
can mention HR.
Yeah,
because
I
there's a
think
lot
that
of
would be good.
confidential, or whoever's functioning as HR, I guess,
Yeah.
however you want to word that. But yeah, I obviously like, I just think that extra limitations don't make a lot of sense. I would trust the director to hopefully make a sound judgment based on the availability of the bank. You wouldn't want to deplete it for all one person unless
Correct.
there's like specific donations to a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yep. So we would need to discuss whether we want the terms to diverge from what are in the Unit 1 and 2 contracts. Personally, having had to administer this program, the limitations that are in there are tough. they're not very good. So I would love to see it improve a little in our contract so that then when we go to the table with Unit 1 and 2, we can bring theirs into a more reasonable space than it currently is. So,
I think that's makes sense to me. Is fair.
yep.
All
All
right.
right. Well, thank you guys. And we will reconvene next week.
All right. Well,
Thank you
thanks,
all.
everybody. We'll
Have a
see
good
everybody
one.
on Tuesday. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.